Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Peace of blessings. It's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless. And we back right now, man. I'm doing a reaction video to a great interview from my vantage point between Stephen A. Smith and Officer Tatum. As you know, Stephen A. Smith has been into the sports world for a long time. It has been very vocal as of late as it pertains to politics. And he's kind of, to me, he says he's independent, but I think he's more left leaning. And Officer Tatum is definitely on the right, conservative brother. He has from Texas, so he's from Fort Worth, Texas. Also, he's been a police officer, played football and all of that in high school. And they're reacting to the comedian D.L. Hughley's comments. So, you got D.L. Hughley's pretty much anti-Trump, Democratic, liberal-minded. So you got a conservative brother, a so-called independent, and a liberal. And I thought the interview went well. I'm definitely excited to do this reaction. So with that being said, I'm happy that the interview seemed to went well and everybody got a chance and it wasn't no name calling. And it's good to see brothers come together and dialogue peacefully and respectfully. So with that, let's get into it.
Joining me now to discuss this is a conservative political commentator, an author, a radio personality, and he has a strong following on YouTube. By the way, I think it's escalated over 3.4 million subscribers, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. He's a former college football player and former police officer who is the host of the hit show, The Officer Tatum. Please welcome Brandon Tatum, a.k.a. The Officer Tatum, to the Stephen A. Smith Show. What's up, big time? How are you, man? Nice to finally meet you. How's everything?
I'm blessed, man. God is good, man. And I'm really excited to talk to you.
Man, please, the pleasure is all mine, man. Even though, listen, there have been times when you've been critical of me. It's okay. I can take it. Damn it, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. It's no big deal, right? But before I even get into this interview, I need you to tell me, why do people try you physically? I mean, I just pointed out that you're a football player, former football player, police officer, but yet you got some fools out there that be trying you physically. I could understand if they came at me. What the hell are they thinking about coming at you?
Oh, man, Stephen A., really, to be honest, in public, people never say anything to me. A couple non-binaries on the campus of UC Davis decided to lose their mind, which I bet they will never do that again. However, most people, when they see me in person, they realize I'm 6'2", 280. They don't want nothing to do with me.
I would imagine so. I would imagine so. Let me get to a more civilized situation right now, because obviously you heard me a little bit earlier talking about D.L. Hughley. And before I ask you about him, I wanted to make sure you heard exactly what he had to say in the aftermath of Saquon Barkley, the star running back for the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, electing to go to the White House, and what D.L. Hughley had to say about him or anybody else who happens to be black that would think about going to the White House. Listen to D.L. Hughley talking on TMZ earlier. Check this out.
14 players said, I'm going to boycott this. Whose side are you on?
I think that it's not just political. What Donald Trump has done and is doing to Black history is unsavory and is undeniable. Donald Trump is deliberately trying to erase Black people's history for whatever quest. He's elevating Christopher Columbus again. So he deliberately is doing things to Black people that isn't just political. And any Black man that does it is going to obviously catch some level of heat.
Hold fast. D.L. Hughley, man, hold fast, brother. Now, how you figure, where you get off saying that Donald Trump is trying to erase Black history? Now, you recall not too long ago when Trump got in office a few months ago, they were saying that Donald Trump was trying to get rid of Black History Month. Then Trump turned around and threw a Black History Month event at the White House with a whole bunch of black people, black conservatives that came through. So that was a lie. That was debunked. And I was having a conversation with some brothers, and they were saying that, you know, the left don't lie. But that was a lie. Donald Trump not only threw a Black History Month event celebrating Black history, he said he was going to create a museum or a park of some sort with statues that honored historical great Black Americans, such as Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King Jr., and Kobe Bryant, to name a few. So to say that Donald Trump is trying to get rid of Black history is a lie. But let's continue, man.
When a black person does it, I can when it's a black person, I can always tell what kind of black person. I can always tell what they are.
Whoa, wait, what does that mean, Dia?
Saquon Barkley, he had a girlfriend that threw around the N-word a lot and said she wasn't a gold digger and she wasn't messing with no broke N-words. He looks like that kind of guy that is indifferent to what black people go through. It's just true. And I think I've noticed that to be consistent with a lot of black people who show up.
You know what I think, D.L. Hughley? I think you think black people are more relevant than they really are. I really do. I think Donald Trump, white people in America largely ain't even tripping off black people like that no more in America. Just my opinion. Let's continue.
They have a shoe booty affect to them.
You heard what D.L. Hughley had to say right there. You are a Republican. You have been on the record. You are a supporter of Donald Trump. You heard what D.L. Hughley had to say. Your thoughts?
First of all, D.L. Hughley has been historically one of my favorite comedians. I love D.L. Hughley, but I don't know what he done. I don't know, he bumped his head or something, but he has lost his mind. And it's a shame that he has to go down the path of racism. You know, I've met Donald Trump several times. I've been to the White House several times. Actually, Donald Trump met my dad at a UFC fight not too long ago, and my dad didn't even vote for Trump. So Donald Trump isn't what they're projecting him to be, but also the racism that exists amongst black people. Why is D.L. Hughley, who claimed to be a pro-black man, hating and talking down on another brother? Just because you decide to love a woman that happen to not be black don't mean you're a sellout and you don't understand the black struggle. And Saquon Barkley, who's a rational adult, who wants to play football and enjoy his life and don't have to have a problem with Donald Trump because everybody said he does. I mean, he went and golfed with Donald Trump. He was flying on a, Marine One with Donald Trump. What's the problem with that? Unless you're a racist and you hate white people, you shouldn't have a problem with a brother loving a white person or a brother supporting a president just for the sake of him being the commander-in-chief.
Exactly. At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's all about respecting the office. You know, regardless of who's in office. Now, it does help if you actually like who's in office, but Officer Tatum makes an excellent point. Because I see a double standard here. If it's a conservative black man that happens to date someone outside their race, they have a problem with it. But when it's a liberal person that dates a black person that dates outside that race, as long as they share the same liberal mindset, they don't have a problem. Case in point, Jasmine Crockett, Democrat, tried to criticize Byron Donalds, a black conservative, for having a white wife. But as Byron Donalds said, he said, wait a minute, you talking about me having a white wife? Like it's something wrong with that when you were just campaigning for Kamala Harris, who's a black woman, quote unquote, who has a white husband. So make it make sense. See, it's the hypocrisy within the liberal mindset that I just can't roll with. But let's just keep going.
And D.L. Hughley just, he bothers me so much because I just don't like what he says about black people, generally speaking. But I can go on forever about it.
What did you think about what he had to say as it pertained to Trump and the administration essentially trying to eradicate Black history? You know, basically, you know, whatever initiatives, executive orders, there's a lot of things that we can point to that people have believed that's what he was doing. What do you make of that and what Trump has done since he's been in office?
I think it's absolutely asinine to suggest that Donald Trump is trying to erase Black history. That's the craziest thing ever. D.L. Hughley don't have any evidence whatsoever to make a claim like that, other than having Trump derangement syndrome. Donald Trump in his first term, he gave permanent funding to HBCUs. Donald Trump literally had every HBCU president in the Oval Office talking to them about things that they can do to improve Black universities. Donald Trump, the operation zones, I mean, you can go down the list and all the things that he's done that help Black in the Black community.
And to add a little volume, Donald Trump doubled down just recently, and he created a whole category, a whole department rather, for HBCUs just recently, signing an executive order so they can have funding, unlimited funding for HBCUs. What other president is doing something like that? So if he hate Black people so much, why would he be consistently investing in historical Black colleges and universities in his first term and in his current term? Let's continue.
The people that have been a part of his administration. Is Byron Donalds a sellout? Is Clarence Thomas a sellout? I mean, all of these other
some people would say Clarence Thomas, though. Officer Tatum, you know, some people would say that about Clarence Thomas. They do feel like Clarence Thomas has been one of those individuals that has no interest in pushing forth Black causes at all. That has been said about him for decades. Long before Donald Trump came along.
And it's because of Black people who inherently are in their consciousness are racist individuals, because they don't like Clarence Thomas because he got a white woman. But let me tell you this. I bet you $1 million you won't see D.L. Hughley talking about Bubba Wallace.
I just said that. They cherry pick who they want to come at with that mess, right?
The NASCAR driver that did the fake hoax with the noose, you'd never hear him talk about him because he's willing to say all this activist stuff that he's not really believing in. But he got a white woman. So D.L. Hughley is inconsistent with his projection against Black people.
Exactly. That's the hypocrisy within the Democratic Party. Now, that's clear as day. Like he just lined it out. Like I said it earlier. They all do that, man. They all do that.
I'll just say this. Black people cannot exist in America isolating themselves in a cocoon with other Black people who, to be honest, hate on them more than white people do. And D.L. Hughley is a perfect example of it. Why won't you uplift your brothers? Why won't you celebrate the brothers that got invited to the White House that won the Super Bowl? Why wouldn't you? Because you just don't like Donald Trump? And I guarantee you'll never hear D.L. Hughley say anything negative about Donald Trump before he became a Republican president. That's why I don't have no respect for these dudes. And then I'll tell you this, Stephen A. They don't never talk about the thugs in our community. They never talk about the problems. I mean, consistently talk about the ailments that are in our community. Talk about, abortions that go on in our community higher than anywhere else in the country. They don't talk about the murder rate in our community that's higher than anywhere else in the country. They don't talk about the education system that has failed Black people. They don't talk about these politicians that put illegal aliens before they put Black people. Look at Brandon Johnson.
Oh, let me not stop him. Go on
in Chicago. Billions of dollars spent on illegal aliens, won't spend a dime on Black folks. Look at Barack Obama. He came from Chicago. Can't name me not one policy that benefited Black folks.
Thank you. Now I got to stop you. He cooking. Officer Tatum is cooking right now, man. He said a lot, bro. That's what I'm talking about. These same self-righteous race baiters come out here like D.L. Hughley. They address all this nonsense. Donald Trump is racist with no facts behind it. He just illustrated a whole situation. We could go back and talk about how he funded Jesse Jackson's campaign. I'm talking about Donald Trump right now. We could talk about how he pardoned tens of dozens of Black people in his first administration and in this administration. So where are you getting this narrative from? But everything that's going on in the black community, like he said, they don't never address that. But anything that has a racial connotation, they want to see. That's what they do. Why don't you come into the community and show your contribution to the black community, since you're so concerned about it, but you want to criticize Donald Trump? D.L. Hughley, you got resources. You got, access to programs and things of that nature. I'm pretty sure you could do a lot of good, but you're not. From my vantage point, I haven't heard anything, but you could get on here and criticize Donald Trump, who is a white man, what he's not doing for the black community. Make that make sense. Let's continue.
Especially not in Chicago. So D.L. Hughley won't talk about these brothers. They won't talk about these hoodwinking snake oil salesmen that are acting like they're activists. For instance, Reverend Al Sharpton. These people are the most disingenuous individuals I've ever seen in my life. They can go on a boycott of Target, not realizing that there's black people that got product in Target. So what was
facts? Where the lie at? Where the lie at? They sit up here and want to boycott Target. Boycott Target for what? Target ain't never did nothing to black people. That's a waste of time and energy. It actually is detrimental to black people that work there and have their products that they sell there. Target has largely supported the black community. People like Al Sharpton are vultures to the black community. They come out here whenever it's a racial situation that they can attach themselves to, and they draw up, they fan the flames of racism in the black community, get people all riled up, and then they get federal funding from the government to start a campaign, and they get all this money and they never put it back into the black community. You never hear Al Sharpton talk about anything to help uplift the black community unless it got a racial connotation attached to it. That's a vulture of the enemy of the black community from my vantage point, because you are exploiting the black community. Anytime it's a racial connotation. Al Sharpton been out here for decades doing this, running the same play. Ain't never did nothing for black people. Nothing but take from the community, give federal funding, which I would allege is some type of you got an assignment from them people to stir up the black community, get them all emotionally tied in. And now, we got this cause, now we can get this money, which you never put back into that same community that you exploited. I see the play. Let's continue.
How about you boycott Target and in the black communities where black people work at the Target? How about we stop wasting energy being victims and start supporting black people? Have a march to support black businesses, where we spend our money in black businesses, where we put our money in black banks, where we send our kids to black universities. Stephen A., you know why you would never see them do that? Because they wouldn't dare put their money in a black bank. They wouldn't dare send their kids to black universities. And D.L. Hughley and the rest of them won't dare live in a black neighborhood. Ask Stephen A. where he live at. I guarantee you, we look it up, he live around a number of white folks. Mm-hmm. So this is why I don't believe these people and why they're detrimental to black people in America.
I got to take a break to pay a bill. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more in just a second. what I would challenge you on, Officer Tatum, and I respect the hell out of you on where you're coming from. I don't agree with everything you said, but let me say this. A lot of the litany of things that you labeled in terms of problems that exist in our community, problems that exist in our country, you're absolutely right on point. I'm not here to challenge that at all. I love the last part that you made about how they were so focused on immigration, they were so focused on woke culture and cancel culture that they forgot about black folks along the way, the folks on the left. I totally agree with you about that. I've been decrying that for the longest time. And when I think about D.L. Hughley, I've said this before you came on the show today. I'm like, listen, you can't sit up there and talk mess about somebody, all right, and then expect them to do business with you. You've got to be willing to compromise. You got to be willing to cross the aisle, figuratively speaking, in his case, because he's not a politician. You got to be willing to work. You can't be about denigrating the president for every damn thing. Like there isn't a single thing that he says that he doesn't do right. Everything he says isn't wrong. Everything he says isn't off kilter. Some things he said he does have a point about. There's no question about that. I push back on you when you try to lay, like somebody like a D.L. Hughley, when he pointed out how Trump challenged his nationality, citizenship, whether he was born in the United States or not. Let's not forget that. When we point to issues, when we talk about how, what have they done for us or what hasn't been done for us, when we see a guy like Clarence Thomas and others, you speak against affirmative action, but you benefited from affirmative action. When we hear Trump come into office and literally a plane collides with a helicopter and he's blaming DEI with no evidence whatsoever, and they're questioning the meritocracy of something or the merits of something, and all of those kind of things are taking place, we do find ourselves, and I think D.L. Hughley is absolutely entitled to find himself uncomfortable with some of the things that he is seeing. You see, he might have gone too far by saying what he said. I think he did. Anybody that goes to the White House, anybody that communicates with Trump, I think that's beyond the pale. But him being skeptical, him questioning some things, I don't think that's off kilter, Officer Tatum. I don't.
Well, Stephen A., if his skepticism was genuine, I agree. My father has skepticism of Donald Trump and things that are genuine. My dad is a good man. He's acting in good faith and he don't hate white people.
But how do you know it's not genuine?
I think he has a big issue and he hate white people deep down in his soul. And that's why everything white people do, he has a criticism. When white people get in a shooting against black people, he has a criticism. I guarantee you I haven't seen his take on the kid in Dallas that stabbed a young man in the heart. I guarantee.
Man, Officer Tatum ain't telling nothing but the truth. The only people really tripping off all this racial shit right about now are black people. In 2025, the only people that's tripping off this whole racial tip right now are black people, man, from my vantage point. He got an excellent point. You know, D.L. Hughley is driven by his racial views, bro. He wouldn't even have this issue. Like Donald Trump, for example, all these same people that came up against Donald Trump before he ran for president as a Republican was all hugged up with Donald Trump. That was never the narrative with Donald Trump. See, black Americans have become the very thing that they despise. Hypocrites that sit up here and want to hang their hat on some racial tip. Now, you criticize racist white folk, but you doing the same thing. You making something that's clearly not racial and over-racializing it to the point where it's become a distraction. What y'all should be doing is trying to get with Donald Trump and get some tangibles for the black community. Is this about the only president that I've seen from my vantage point that will actually possibly do something for the black community? But you're too busy attacking instead of trying to reach across the aisle to make some things happen for the same community that you talking about. How stupid could you be? You missing out on a golden opportunity, further creating a wedge by talking about all this nonsense. But let's continue.
He took the side of the black man. Let's go back to the birther thing. The birther is an argument about the validity of Barack Obama's birth certificate started with Hillary Clinton. And there was a whole bunch of other politicians outside of Donald Trump.
Bam! Hillary Clinton started that whole narrative when they ran against each other for the Democratic, nomination. Hillary started that. That started from another fellow Democrat.
Donald Trump piggybacked off of things that people had already established. D.L. Hughley, I mean, we can go down a list of all the other things that you said. His skepticism of policy. What policy is he referring to that Donald Trump is doing that's against black people? Last time I checked, building the economy helps build black people's pocketbook. Last time I checked, when you're talking about immigration and getting all these illegal aliens out of our country, spending taxpayer dollar, black people pay taxes. That helps and benefits the black community. When you think about Clarence Thomas, this is a black man who worked his way up and decided that we do not need affirmative action because it discriminates against all people. It discriminates against black people because there are black people who are qualified that are not necessarily associated with this affirmative action thing. They may have a family, they come from a good family, a good household, and they're not associated with getting a handout.
Exactly. Everybody don't fall into that same category. So affirmative action only helped a certain demographic. It wasn't nothing that you could paint with a wide paintbrush. So if we're gonna create something for black people, that wasn't it. You know what I'm saying? Affirmative action wasn't it. It only targeted a specific demographic. And contrary to belief, when you do the statistics on it, it majority helped white women, just like DEI. When you do the statistics, DEI programs benefited white women more than any other demographic of people. Let's continue.
Because their parents did the work and their parents put them in a position where they're not considered lower income or people who benefit from affirmative action. But also, it's time for us to move forward. We can't keep living in the past, Stephen A. I mean, my God, I just saw a movie that came out called Sinners. I haven't watched it, but the preview of the movie and some of the dialogue around the movie is another movie projecting black people in the 1930s, and it's the white man against the black man. When are we going to stop this mess? The Underground Railroad's proliferation and success didn't come from just black people. There were good white people who never owned slaves, who never had nothing to do with slavery, who risked their lives to help Harriet Tubman get black people to freedom.
Bingo. Now, he just said something right there. When slavery was going down, first and foremost, recognize that white people didn't just come to Africa and just snatch up slaves. There was a slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. So those same Africans sold other black Africans into slavery. Mother tripped and handed over daughter. Father sold the son. The brother sold the sister. Yeah. So at the end of the day, they don't want to talk about that part of slavery. They ain't just go over to Africa and just snatch black people up. There was a trade. Now we get to America. Harriet Tubman with the Underground Railroad. It was white people that helped slaves go through that Underground Railroad too. So you had a lot of white people that wasn't with that. Well, they recognition. So when we want to cherry pick certain parts of slavery when we talk about what actually happened. You know what I'm saying? Where are the lies at? What this man is saying? Ain't no lies. Ain't none of that, man. This man speaking straight facts, bro. Let's get to
it. In the history of this country, there has always been good white people that have done positive things to affect change that benefited black people. Right. Now, there have been racists, there have been knuckleheads, but generally speaking, in the totality of circumstances in the American experience, there's nowhere else on planet Earth black people can go and benefit and prosper and have a level of success than in the United States of America. And there are so many corporations and so many lenders and investors that are white that have propelled black people to a level of success that we've never seen before. I mean, Stephen A., your contract is very handsome. And I don't think that they're treating you improperly because you black. It's because you earned it. No, it's because you went years of being consistent, right? Speaking your mind, taking the heat, and then you getting paid.
My response to that would be, that's true. I'm very, very fortunate, but I went through a lot before I got to this point, and it took me significantly longer to achieve what others who look differently than me might have captured sooner. But I do get.
To be fair and objective, Stephen A. got a point. We know for a fact, you know, yeah, we got to work a little harder than, the most. But at the end of the day, you can achieve it, be whatever you want to be in America if you put the work in. Might have to work a little harder. Ain't nobody trying to sit here and act like racism doesn't exist. Especially on a systemic level. Yeah, it does. We know that. But at the end of the day, man, we got black people in office. We got black mayors, black senators. We even seen a black president. We got black people in every branch of government. We got black people that are multi-millionaires. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no excuses, bro. This 2025. At some point, we got to start taking accountability and taking control of our own reality. You feel me? Let's continue.
You get your point, because I don't sit there and look back, and I don't view every white person as racist, and I don't view every policy as racist. A matter of fact, one of the reasons I've never felt that way about Donald Trump in terms of racism, Nazis, and all of this other stuff is because I knew him before he ran for office. And I knew a whole bunch of us that knew him before he ran for office. And we never said that stuff about him. Neither did Oprah, neither did a whole bunch of other people. There was a whole bunch of people communicating with Donald Trump, befriending Donald Trump, socializing with Donald Trump, and we never had any problem. So I view him as somebody that's catering to a constituency because he knew he wasn't going to win the left. He wasn't going to win the Democratic nomination because that was going to Hillary Rodham Clinton. They would have made sure he didn't win that. So he went the other side, and he, being a businessman, is willing to negotiate his way.
Because you weren't going to play that game. You had to play politics. Stephen A. just said it. He knew his best chance was to run Republican because the Democrats, they couldn't control them. And Stephen A. made an excellent point. All these people, and I said earlier in this video, man, they know that man ain't racist. They used to kick it with him. They loved him. They was eating out the palm of his hand. And he funded a lot of black people and got some of their careers off the ground. But as soon as he ran Republican, and here come the racial, distractions. Come on, man, knock it off.
Through anything. That's how I view him, but that's just me. I want to get to you in this regard, Officer Tatum. You talked about your dad and how he didn't vote for Donald Trump.
I want to buy your house. I can pay you cash for your house, no matter what condition it's in.
Are you a lifelong Republican, Or are you somebody that was a Democrat that transitioned to being a Republican because of the things that you've articulated since you've been sitting on this show?
That's a great question. You know, in America, and I say this is unfortunate in part, that when you black, you come out a Democrat. Because when I was young, we didn't even vote. We weren't even deep into politics. But you just knew if you were going to vote, you voted for a Democrat, because
That's
the
true.
Democrat was for the black people and the Republicans were racist white people. That's what it was. A minute, I don't think I agree with nothing that the Democrats are doing. I don't think I agree with any of it. I believe in God. I believe putting God first. I believe in marriages between a man and a woman. I mean, you go down a list. I don't want to pay no crazy amount of taxes just for them to be throwing your money like they at a strip club. So I'm saying, when I look at the policy position, not the emotional manipulation of empathy that I see from the Democrat side and from D.L. Hughley and others, I look at policy and I say, well, the policy of lowering taxes makes sense. Thomas Sowell, the great economist, have already articulated, any economist will tell you, when they lower the taxes and taxes seem to be reasonable to the American people, they pay more into the treasury. When you raise the taxes, people try to evade taxes. Therefore, there's lower money coming into the treasury of the United States of America. So I'm for lowering taxes. I'm for, immigration policy. It don't make no sense whatsoever that people have to wait 10 years to come over here. And I think it's prejudice against some of the African nations, because they don't get to just walk through the southern border. People waiting in line forever, paying all this money, fleeing actual persecution. And they don't have an opportunity because we have 20 million illegal aliens coming from the southern border right into our country. And D.L. Hughley didn't say a thing that I've seen about when Joe Biden was doing this and screwing black people over. Because where do they go, Stephen A? When these illegals come into America, they don't go to the foothills. They're not going to the affluent neighborhoods. They're not welcome at Martha's Vineyard. They are going and competing for low-skilled work in the inner cities. And therefore, they're putting black people out of employment, because black people are working for citizen wages, which means that you're an American citizen, you have to work for minimum wage. These people coming over here, you can pay them under the table.
I'm popular for saying this, Officer Tatum.
Facts. I'm going to stop that right there, man. You want to see the rest of that interview. I thought it was a very good interview, because they, two brothers having a great dialogue, name calling, differences of opinions. Some they agree on, some they disagree. But like you said, man, unfortunately, in the black community, and I can attest to this, we have been bred to vote Democrat. Blue no matter who. And I believe at our own detriment. But as you get older and you start to see the difference between policy and emotionalism, you start to align more with, for me, conservative values, and lower taxes. Certain things that policies line up with your core beliefs. Like you said, marriage is between a man and woman. Now, me personally, I don't care if people can do what they want to do, but if it's for me and what I believe in, then my values line up more on the conservative side. But if you voting blue no matter who, you're voting at your own detriment for illegal immigrants to come into your community and snatch away your jobs. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, hey, companies could pay them under the table. When we trying to work for a livable wage, these people will work for half of what you're getting paid. You go through all these construction sites. They even starting to hop in trucks. People are finding ways to pay them. Say you supposed to be getting $30 an hour, they'll settle for 15 or 20. So companies is like, hey, I can save money. Why not hire illegal immigrants? But at the end of the day, this is what's needed. We need to find a way to come together. In conversations like this, are very helpful. I didn't detect no lies when I watched this exchange between Stephen A. and Officer Tatum. And if you look at the comment section, people may have disagreed, but they really appreciated this interview. From a left, from an independent, and from a right-wing perspective. But what say you? Drop it in the comment section. It's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless. And this is my reaction to Stephen A. Smith and Officer Tatum's interview. Until next time, peace and blessings, and we'll talk to you soon. Much love.